Stewart, Denver 7 News at 5 starts right now.
Moving forward and getting the fire debris out of here.
I still have to see my house sometimes, what remains of it, and it's really upsetting.
Boulder County has cleared a final legal hurdle, which means Marshall fire cleanup can soon begin.
We've been ready for weeks to remove this debris.
State lawmakers are trying to keep money in your pocket by delaying new fees expected to kick in next year.
This is really one of those small ways that we can save Coloradoans money.
Plus, union workers reach an agreement with RTD that includes raises.
We basically addressed a lot of the concerns that make the job very difficult.
And signed and granted. Colorado has a new National Historic Site.
And good evening to you, and thank you for joining us at 5. I'm Ann Trujillo.
And I'm Jason Grenauer. It's been nearly 3 months since the Marshall Fire destroyed more than 1,000 homes in Louisville, Superior, and Boulder County. And now the long-delayed Marshall Fire debris removal process is closer to starting.
Today, a legal hurdle was cleared in Boulder County, which means cleanup could finally get underway. Here to explain is Denver 7's Micah Smith.
Today, members of Marshall Together, an organization made up of Marshall fire survivors who lost their homes in the disaster, say they're viewing the judge's decision with cautious optimism. Board member Tanya Samaru was in court today, and she says she's happy to hear that the preliminary injunction and temporary restraining order were denied. That means the long-delayed debris removal is closer to moving forward. But the fact the judge did not rule on the open meetings violation that led to choosing a debris removal contractor left her feeling worried.
I'm glad that the contract can begin, but I worry that the cloud of the litigation will still affect how it gets executed, whether the county and the cities are caught up with this or what. I'd rather that the cloud was cleared of all litigation and we could just move forward.
Samaru says every time she drives past the place where her house used to stand, she's re-traumatized. She just wants to clear her property and start again. But the plaintiff in this case, the organization demanding integrity and government spending, or DIG, says that Louisville and the county of Boulder were never ready to physically start removing debris. So I asked Louisville City Council member Kyle Brown if this was true.
I would tell him that organization to come to our community, talk to our residents. Our community is ready, and our city government is ready, and our staff have been working 24/7 since this disaster to get our community ready. We've been ready for weeks to remove this debris.
Next, the judge will decide if the committee that chose the contractor to begin debris removal violated the open meetings law. The judge set another hearing for March 30th at 11 a.m. Reporting in Louisville, Micah Smith, Denver 7.
And fire victims have less than 2 weeks to apply for disaster assistance through Boulder County. The deadline is Thursday, March 31st, and this is for people whose homes were damaged or destroyed, and for people displaced because of smoke or ash contamination. You can find a link to apply on Boulder County's website.
The so-called stealth Omicron variant has been detected in Denver, but the city says they are not concerned about a new surge. The CDC has been saying there likely won't be a surge in cases as seen with the previous Omicron variant because of environmental factors, low overall transmission, and community behavior. Denver also says thanks to relatively high levels of vaccination and immunity gained from the Omicron wave, Colorado should be in for a period of relative pandemic calm over the next few months.
For the first time since Russia invaded Ukraine, President Biden spoke today with Chinese President Xi. Last week, there were concerns that China could supply Russia with military equipment. China is denying those reports, but the White House says the president made it clear on today's call that China supplying weapons would not be tolerated.
He also conveyed and described the implications and consequences if China provides material support to Russia.
The UN now estimates nearly 6.5 million Ukrainians have had to seek shelter in Ukraine during Russia's invasion. 3.2 million people have fled the country altogether.
Camp Amachi in southeastern Colorado is now a National Historic Site. Today, President Biden officially signed off on that new site, which was that new bill. It was first a bill, rather, brought by Democratic and Republican lawmakers from Colorado. Now, the Amachi site was used as an internment camp for Japanese Americans during World War II. Senator John Hickenlooper was present at that ceremony. He says the best part of designating the new site is it makes sure we don't forget these hard-learned lessons from our history where the United States went in the wrong direction. Well, between inflation and gas prices, Coloradans are being asked to pay a lot these days.
And now Colorado lawmakers are trying to find ways to help. Denver 7 politics reporter Megan Lopez shows us how.
All it takes is a quick trip to the gas station to feel the pinch in your wallet. Gas prices have skyrocketed, and so have prices on just about everything else. Needless to say, it's not cheap to be a driver right now between supply chain shortages, inflation, and of course the crisis in Ukraine.
There are all these factors that we don't have control over.
But state lawmakers say there are ways they can help, like one bill to keep driver's license registration fees from increasing next year.
We're able to keep them at $30 when the national average is $40.
The registration fee was set to go up by $2. It'll cost the state $4 million to keep it at its current level.
This is really one of those small ways that we can save Coloradoans money.
And you know those cars you've seen driving around with expired tags? Well, there's another bill to increase the penalty on anyone who registers their car late. So how does that save you money?
The bulk majority of the costs then fall on fewer people that are actually following the rules, and that's not fair to the people who live here. This will mean real cost reduction immediately for everybody, because we're collecting more revenue that we're already owed.
In January,
now is not the time. Let's show people relief at the pump.
We also heard the governor talk about his plan to delay the implementation of fees from that big transportation law. You know, the one with the fees for gas, delivery, ride shares, and more. That bill's yet to be introduced, but for Speaker Alec Garnett,
I think when you look at the total package of what we're moving forward to save people money, it is over $100 million. That is a huge commitment.
It's really starting to weigh on people.
Republicans like Senator Ray Scott share the same goal of saving people money, but he says last year's transportation law wasn't anticipating this year's financial crunch.
Now we're back in a position saying, was it realistic? Did it really make any sense?
And he wants to make sure that the state isn't forgetting that its transportation system still needs funding. So he's looking for a middle road.
But we need to kind of set aside those partisan arguments, if you will, and have a real discussion and make some real sense out of exactly what we can do for immediate fixes and long-term fixes.
Because he says saving money is important, but it shouldn't come at the sake of safe roads. Megan Lopez, Denver 7.
Now, on top of the other transportation measures you heard Megan talk about, keep in mind the Keep Colorado Wild Pass will also kick in starting next January. Now, that will add an additional $29 to your vehicle registration, but offer free admission to all state parks. The money will help with conservation efforts. Now, you can opt out of it. You just have to remember to do so.
RTD has reached an agreement with union workers that immediately boosts operator pay to $24 an hour, and that rate will hit $26 an hour by the year 2024. Today, RTD leaders, were joined by union representatives who believe these raises will help retain staff and help keep services on track. At the end of today's press conference, General Manager and CEO Deborah Johnson emphasized that RTD is hiring and is encouraging anyone who needs a job to apply. RTD is also offering a $4,000 hiring bonus for several frontline positions, including operators and mechanics. And still ahead at 5, a unique holdup during the morning rush hour.
Someone loaded a semi with a little too much beer. And the struggles of making friends as an adult.
Fed up with trying to make new friends during the pandemic, one Denver woman created a group of her own, which now has hundreds of members.
A lot of people moved to Colorado and to Denver during the pandemic. There wasn't as much socialization. There was a lot of work from home.